what about the other four members of Hokori's lineup? Because if you're investing that much into trying to get through the DP, now the Timbersaw is going to be able to hurt you. Now that Nyx Assassin is absolutely going to be brutal because now that combo may not even be as possible for King of Kings to pull off as they wanted it to be.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how they decide to go laning wise, because that's the other problem. If this ends up being a Death Prophet mid, what's your Kunkka, gonna be able to do? And that's a really smart pick. I really like the Oracle pickup here. Nyx Assassin as well, just really plays nicely into both the Kunkka and the Snapfire. But this Oracle, well, hey, now you gotta be careful. If you're purifying your ally while he's Ice Blast, well, you can kill him pretty quick. But it's really that Fate's Edict where now you have the save. And that's something that DP's broken when every other team that picks it up isn't picking just all-out save from the rest of your heroes, but now it's set up in even a much better way than I think we've seen so far in this tournament. But this is a problem. I think King of Kings now, they need to pick someone. Okay, the Beastmaster is an interesting choice here. I think you now have someone to maybe save. The problem is just that Beastmaster's ulti is a lot faster and a lot lower cooldown than Oracle's is. So when it comes to actually getting rid of him, what are you going to do here? You're really going to need to send the Timbersaw to his lane. I've got a lot of questions. This Beastmaster solves a few of them, though, and flooding them with creeps, that's a really good decision, because Nyx Assassin as well plays very poorly when you have to deal with those summon units.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the automatic detection built in anymore with just going for that Necro play that Beastmasters used to do that kind of made Nyx useless, but it is still a struggle. So, as you said, it does not solve all of their problems, but it solves about as many as I think you were going to be able to fix in one go. So, not a bad choice for the Beastmaster. The only concern now, you need a heavy hitter at this point, and we're starting to see some of those carries being taken away. The Wraith King banned away. King of Kings actually take the Phantom Assassin out themselves, whereas Hokori, that kind of is a necessity. The ban on the Faceless Void, considering everything else that they've picked up that could be thrown into a Chronosphere, you do have to take that out.
Yeah, you don't want to give him another playmaker, and of course, in the Beastmaster, you do feel like King of Kings needs someone else. I think I would really like to see. I want to say a CK pickup here, but that's where the Timbersaw is just so obnoxious. You can't really go for that hero anymore, and if you do, well, then you got to play CK versus Timber, and sure, maybe early on you can definitely get some cheeky kills here. Not to mention, yeah, you got AACK. That's a really good lane. That's a really strong combo. It's just, do they want to do that to themselves? Where in that mid game, are you going to run out of damage? Are you going to run out of spells? Are you going to run out of what you need to do? And I think, unfortunately, that's where Hokori, having the next pick in this phase, might actually be able to steal the perfect hero from King of Kings. And then it feels even better for them because they want the exact same hero, more or less. They need another playmaker. They need someone who's going to be an initiator. As we see with this Death Prophet, that's the one problem. That's why whenever we see DP Kunkka, we're pretty happy with ourselves because someone else is going in and starting the fight. Because as of right now, Hokori kind of have to run up their opponents to start any of these team fights that they are going to be looking for. And I think that's where we might just see a Blink Stunner coming in from Yuma, which is exactly what King of Kings also need.
King of Kings, though,
Interesting.
yeah, looking at the Medusa ban, so not nearly a hero with the same sort of dynamic sort of playmaking, no mobility, but they were concerned about it, and we get ourselves a fun one. Been a little bit, ET, since we've seen that Yuma Magnus, but it is coming out now, and I don't know. I don't remember the last time we saw a weak performance on the Yuma Magnus. They are very, very rare. He knows how to play this hero so well, and now if you're King of Kings, you have to be so careful, because that's the exact hero, right? You said they wanted damage and playmaking. Mag fills both roles quite nicely.
Now, do I think Benny was, raring to go on the safe lane Magnus as well? Probably not. This is kind of a specialty for Yuma, but I'm still just over here smiling. And they do go for Ursa, which is honestly very smart pick. Kind of rounds you out a little bit. How it plays versus the DP, I'm a little bit scared just because any melee safe laner that gets stuck in the middle of the fight is so susceptible to that silence, is so susceptible to getting caught in a position where even though the Death Prophet's right next to you, you just simply can't hit her. Not to mention, Ursa is not one of those agi carries that has really good base armor, so it doesn't feel like he's going to necessarily be the tankiest bear, but that's where hopefully the rest of the lineup can kind of help him out. But Yuma Mag, I'm super pumped up to see what he's actually able to pull off here. It's burned in my memory. I remember them playing a game of Yuma Magnus on D2 Hustlers where they're losing for like 20 minutes. Nothing's going well for them, and then Yuma hits like a 5-man RP, and then everyone dies, and then I think 5 minutes later they call the GG, but he hit the 5-man RP. He just always has the perfect timing. It doesn't even matter sometimes. It's just always fun to see what seems like an unlosable position just end up go in their favor. And very cool on Hokori, actually. Looks like they're sending analog on the Timbersaw mid. See how that actually plays out, because as well as Whirling Death has been buffed up, it hasn't been buffed up in the way of the base damage is the best. You still need to actually cut trees when it comes to getting the full damage through. That's still an aspect of that spell. So we'll see if he just maxes it out because he's stealing strength away from the Kunkka. But this is where the lane counters, we'll see if King of Kings try to be a little bit tricky here again. Maybe send the Ursa mid. It'd be funny if Benny just runs away with another lane.
Yeah, so there might be a little bit of a counter swap, I guess. That's sounds a little bit strange, but might just have to be the call. We'll see who ends up going where. But before we get the chance to, we do have another pause coming out here, so we'll see actually what the issue is here. Nobody's DC'd, so it might just be a little bit of maybe a little bit of lag at the start, but yeah, as you said, analog playing the Timbersaw. And now you have maybe even a less to sort of concern yourself about. We were talking about the DP Kunkka matchup being, at least on paper, one that you're supposed to sort of like on the King of Kings side, but DP has sort of powered through that in a lot of instances. So now you don't even have to worry about that as a maybe head-to-head. You get Vitali on the hero instead, who can still be so insanely effective at ET. I think this is one of the more annoying things about DP, having to actually play against it. You shift the hero from the 2 to the 3, and very little changes with regards to what the Death Prophet throws out against you.
No, and I have no idea
Hello,
what
mic
Kana's
test,
just
mic
said.
test, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Some interesting. Okay. But at the same time, he's doing the thing.
Oh, you must. Yep. Every time we see this,
Yes.
it blows our mind. Actually, this is
It's a bigger
significantly
pattern than
slower.
usual.
Oh,
The
there it
script
is.
might be failing, but yep, there's the fill.
All in a day's work.
Just
Yeah, this is
so weird.
actually plays. During his stream, this is just happening the entire time. Doesn't even need a spoiler blocker on the mini map. Not afraid of getting sniped if they just see the lines. Oh, I'm blushing. Wait.
Well, so he can be that fast drawing the lines, but when it comes to actually writing letters, it's a little bit slower. But finding ways to keep himself entertained, Yuma is, as we continue to wait here for this pause to
Hey,
conclude.
drawing with the mouse it ain't fun, that stuff's hard, Get a tablet, get a stylus, how that'll help you in a Dota game, I don't know. I'm sure someone's tried to play Dota with a controller or a tablet, but how that actually ends up, I mean, who knows?
I played a match of Dota as Broodmother with a trackpad.
Well, that's pretty.
It's horrible.
That's pretty bad. Wait. That's pretty bad.
I mean, I'm already bad at Dota, right? Like, that's just a given. But now, no mouse. It was all trackpad. I was playing on a laptop and didn't have a mouse with me. And it was painful, man.
Hello, mic test.
Been there, done that. Everybody's had their Dota addiction cause them to play in unideal situations. It's happened to every Dota player at least sometime in their life, except for maybe Arteezy. That guy's always had a good setup, but unfortunately, I got the AFK players, got the Kale. Everything is going wrong so far, stopping this game from happening. But
At least now we know why.
Yeah, true. And honestly, I do wonder how this lane's gonna play out. I love that nowadays though, we never see that awkward situation play out in the laning phase where it's like you've got this double melee, you've got this double ranged. Every lane is very balanced now. And everybody's just gotten so good at Dota, nothing really feels too out of place. But in terms of the actual draft, I wonder what we're going to see from Doonha. even though in the beginning of 731 have been seeing Beastmaster be pretty highly valued, even contested in those early bans, it hasn't felt the same, if I'm being real. It hasn't felt like we've seen a Beastmaster just have that super dominant performance yet, especially in the hands of incredible Beastmaster players like Moo. It feels like a lot more often nowadays they get kind of shut out, kind of forced to the edges. At the very least, he's not going to be contesting for farm nearly as much because, well, Benny and Minnie can definitely start a farm fest, but with the way that Minnie likes to play, I think he's going to be definitely doing more running around than actually hitting neutrals. So Dunha's got more space to work with in that regard. But I just want to see a Beastmaster really get off to a good start.
Well, we're going to be seeing a start now as we finally get ourselves back underway here. So, game will be resumed, and
So Ben, so Ben.
we'll see if there's any sort of early aggression from the squads. Checking for smoke. Nothing out from the Hokori side, but they are grouped up a little bit here, making their way into the west side jungle, and this is a lineup that I could see maybe going for an early punish, right? If you can hit up someone, yeah, with the Fortune's End, which the Oracle has already skilled up, the Olakor could maybe get a follow-up stun in there too, and all it would take is a hero being vaguely out of position for that initiation to come through, but King of Kings not even really operating on that side of the map. They sent the Ursa straight up to the top lane, so they're not really going to get caught out here unless someone just massively breaks from what was planned.
And I'm a little bit sad. No, Benny counterpick this time around. We're not going to see him try and hit up versus the Timbersaw, but even though this is definitely a counterpick, it's something that Minnie will have to be very cautious about. You've got kill potential. I'm very curious to see if Minnie's going to go for perhaps the early Spirit Vessel, or if we could see him just go for the Orchid build. Both feel like a pretty good answer, honestly, versus the mid Timber. But something that Minnie does have over Analog is pre-level 6, wave clear wise, Minnie should be able to fight really well for these runes. He's always going to have the ability to just push in the wave, then either go into the small camp or even hazard to rotate all the way towards bottom, try to get a cheeky kill. Because the Kunkka is very good versus the Magnus. Even if you do get that skewer away, just immediately get brought back. I think that's where we're probably going to see Minnie play in, at least lane-wise, mostly, as soon as he gets his level 6.
Meantime, there's an interesting little dance being done by Analog there, trying to pin down the location of a ward. His pings are in the general area. It's a little bit further in the middle, actually, than I think Analog had been guessing, but he should know that Minnie does have that high ground ward there. I don't really know how much this is going to matter in the early stages, because it is really that far towards the mid that somebody rotating in might be able to get into position before Minnie would see him anyway, but trying to avoid that sort of early snipe out and trying to maintain vision in a lane that the Kunkka maybe isn't otherwise used to going up against that position 2 Timbersaw.
Yeah, and it doesn't really get dewarded, but that's also just because it's kind of the lazy mid ward, right? You just barely see the enemy mid laner's high ground, don't see either of the runes. It's just giving you the ability to aggro your creeps maybe a little bit nicer. And Analog will be able to tell that there is a high ground ward pretty soon here, just with how the creeps are aggroing, but he actually has so many creeps, he's gonna have to take all these under tower, and we'll see if Minnie can maybe get a few cheeky denies here, but with level 2, Analog can do whatever, but creeps actually claim the life bottom.
Gets taken down. Yeah, kill splits. The creeps do the job, but it's your first kill either way, even if it's not technically a first blood announcement. And Dunha, well, I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot he was going to be able to do there. It just has to let his teammate go, but that may be the case moving forward. Normally we talk about the offlaners being the ones that tend to be a little bit more aggressive.
Oh, Yuma.
Oh, did he get the... Yeah, he did. Got the pullback. There's going to be the Fortune's End coming through, trying to get in the tree line is Dunha, but I don't think he's going to be able to make it. Yuma... Actually, he doesn't have the mana. No, second shockwave coming out, so your Beastmaster lives. He'll salve up in the tree line, and that's a very nice play from Yuma. It burns through regen, but that really did feel like Hokori had an opportunity for the kill there that they end up missing.
Yeah, and really the gut wrencher there is just in again.
Did it again.
Dude.
Back
Yuma.
to back. Yuma's feeling it.
It's sad they don't get the claimed kill yet again. The tower gets it, but unfortunately they don't get the first pass just because Gardic is, I think, one creep away from getting level 2, so they don't have the Purifying Flames. But as soon as they get it, Yuma does not miss. Just what a sick play. And with boots, I mean, I think that's what's catching the Beastmaster off guard, is just having that little bit of a leg up movement speed wise. And of course, Duna's rushing for the helm, so he's not going to have boots for quite a while here. It just opens up those opportunities, and you got to be careful because it's twice that he's just played up on this range creep and gotten it pretty much because you assume he's going to get the last hit, and well, he gets you instead, and that's just massive from Yuma.
And this is one of the traps that you can sometimes pull someone like a Beastmaster into. You go for that sort of naked rush for the Dom Helm because, you know, how many times are you going to have a safe lane duo on the opposing side that can actually threaten you? But Yuma absolutely that guy. They get another one. Hane, that is, okay, finally a kill that actually gets claimed by a hero. Gardic is able to get it, but this same combo over and over and over again, ET. King of Kings, even if you have to maybe sacrifice your own aggression, you've got to start giving up these kills.
Yeah, and this is also at Gardic's peak right now. We always talk about the level 3 on the Oracle. You do 180 damage with that Purifying Flames. You'd be so careful, and oh, this would be a nice jump. Ooh, Hannes, that was quick. Didn't want to let that happen again.
He was trying to make the last time when he got caught. It just wasn't quite timed up right, so that time around, yeah. That's what he wants. If he gets that, then he's safe most of the time, but well, I mean, you saw they don't really care on the Hokori side. If they're just gonna go for it, and Yuma, I mean, how many times has he done this maneuver and he's still not out of mana? They've been able to sort of keep him topped off pretty consistently.
Yeah, and you're going to get hard pressed here because now they are running out just a little bit, but okay, just a forcing play. They're trying to force their opponents as much as they're forcing themselves here. At the very least, he still goes for it. Yuma's just a crazy man. It's a level 1 shockwave as well, so at the very least, it's not that much mana, but you're still going to see him just continuously go for these sick plays. You're giving a lot of levels over to the Beastmaster. That's the big benefit. He's going to get his level 5 soon here, have that third point up and bore, and then suddenly you're not too worried about them getting cleaned up, but just always looking for those plays. Just very aggressive players.
Meanwhile, you look over at the middle lane, Analog, 3 points up in the reactive armor. He's got max stacks. He's now got the chakram. He's looking for the kill. Ghost Ship, though, did hit pretty hard, but not hard enough. Analog just walks away. The Kunkka has to leave, and no bottle charges, no further regen. He has to go all the way back to base, whereas the Timber, I mean, if he stands in the middle of the creep wave for a while, that reactive armor is going to get his health back at least. Mana may be an issue, but now he has the lane to himself.
Yep, and of course, it gets rescinded there. He might have had maybe another look at that kill if he had another maybe 100 mana, but yeah, missed kill. Does get a haste rim. That's pretty nice, but that's where Mini, you don't want to be forced to use the boat like he used it. You want to save it for those side lane ganks, but actually Benny, oh, the haste rune is so perfect. If only they knew about Sarem, that'd be a freebie, but at the very least, they get the trade there. But man, Ilyakor, just baiting. This is the second time he's been playing in that small camp and just forcing King of Kings to kind of chase him down here, which just gives Vitaly pretty much the freest game he's had.
Yeah, and this is a free game for the DP, the hero that we've been constantly talking about in this event. So
they're trying for him maybe, but
Benny. Gonna get onto Theolacor a little bit. There's no point up in the Spike Carapace yet, so you would have to both pop a mango and turn around for the stun, but Benny's actually not going to chase after it. Maybe if that Earthshock's on a slightly smaller cooldown, then he goes in for it, but not going to make the play. Mid, though, Hane rotating in, looking for Analog, but he's just too damn tanky. 24 stacks. Maybe... No, maybe. Mini can't afford to go in any further, and Analog, he is so tanky. He doesn't even have a point in the chain there, not feeling the need for that sort of emergency escape. Instead, he's just going to tank his way through it, and Gardic even comes over to help heal him up.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate just because, well, for Hane, he's got the 2 points in a Little Shredder, he's got a Medallion of Courage, but Timber doesn't care about that. He's always going to beat you in that regard, so Hane's build almost playing against him a little bit for that rotation, even though that's what they need to do. It's just a little bit mistimed, I want to say. And, well, with Mini using his boat like that again, he can't rotate out. And Benny,
Totally.
well,
Just
that's a level
rushing
6
it.
DP, level 4 Ursa. Oh my goodness, he's so big, actually.
Oh my god, yeah, big is the right word. He doesn't have to care. Yuma, meanwhile, getting himself the kill onto Hane there in the south side jungle as he and Gardic sort of team up once again. And ET, we are looking at a 7-0 start for Hokori. They have not made really any significant mistakes, whereas King of Kings, they are struggling here as the Olcor going to be able to walk away once again. Vitali comes in with the Siphon, and Benny has to back away, so no one on the King of Kings side is having a good time right now.
Very simply, Hokori won all their lanes. How they deal with the early kind of mid game here, that's going to be the next question. But again, you have to point fingers over at Mini, whether or not he's able to make plays once the supports maybe have a few more levels. Of course, they've got a Snapfire, right? Once you have those Mortimer Kisses, you're actually able to, I think, chain down some of these kills. You get your free play, but if they miss with that, then they're going to be so far behind. Even so, they have a lot of magic damage coming up. It's just this early 10-minute mark, pre-10-minute mark that everything feels rough. And with Mini rotating as much as he has, look, they're denying their own mid-tower. There's no hope. Analog's just been way too obnoxious. My concern is once Analog gets involved, and he is getting involved, Doonha is going to go play it on bottom, while top, they get more kills.
Yep. Took down Sarem. Should be getting some extra damage onto the tower as well. Don't think they'll take the tower, but they can hack away at it a little bit more. And down in the bottom lane, at least Dunha doesn't get taken down. He's able to fall back, but it's just really bit by bit, Hokori building themselves up. They're 2k ahead already. I mean, we're not even 10 minutes in. Just now sort of coming up on that mark. So this is where I think Hokori are going to try to really just avoid the mistake that we kind of saw from the King of Kings side the last time around, with the Razor sort of transitioning into that massively greedy build. Hokori's heroes not in a position even to switch up their builds that significantly.
No, I think just go for the basics here. They did a really smart job. As soon as that mid tower is gone and the objective is taken away, they really are placing Analog in a nice position here, just trying to shut down Doonha, forcing him to farm his own jungle, which, again, brought it up before, he's not really contesting anyone else for it, so Doonha does have this triangle to rely on when it comes to accelerating his own game. The only problem is just how you actually get this Timber Saw off the deck, how much damage you actually have here, and I believe this is the tome coming out for Hunas, so what you do with your next level ups, it's huge, and okay.
Make a play
Mini.
top. That's a big Ice Blast connection. Now, oh, Yuma's coming in. Does he really want to RP in this instance? And actually, he's not even close enough to RP. So Mini, he's going to be able to get out. One of the more valuable kills he could have gotten on the map, taking down Vitali, and oh, the rum buff will wear off. Can't actually fully kill him because of it, so he's going to be fine. Heals up. But now
He's coming back, though.
yeah,
They want to fight.
Doesn't really have quite as much to fight with. They really need to wait for the X, but actually lands Torrent freehand. But this is an RP on the mag. You don't want to get too sort of ahead of yourself grouping up. They are going to back off of it. At the same time, down in the bottom lane, there's a bit of a potential fight breaking out. Analog and Vitali in the area, but not looking to go up against the Beastmaster, especially with this tier 1 tower already gone.
Yeah, and King of Kings with their ultimates. Again, that's their time. That's when their supports can actually provide some assistance here. And they split the attention of Hokori, which is very important. As soon as they split the focus up, that's where your Beastmaster fills in the space, pushes in the waves. He's got the strong creeps. And honestly, it's funny seeing the rallied buff, I guess, on the skeletons. So he's got an additional 9 damage to work with, I suppose. But as soon as they get forced across the map, that's where having this Beastmaster is just going to feel that much nicer. And with the mid tower also taken already, Hokori have to drag pretty much all of their heroes towards that top left corner of the map. And I honestly don't think they're going to head back up there en masse just because there's no real reason to. They want to continue to fight, but it's really difficult for them to make that fight happen until Yuma has his Blink Dagger. Fortunately for them, Yuma's only about 200 gold off, and then we're probably going to see another big smoke. Even smoking before that, just looking for a Vendetta play, and oh, this is perfect. If they find Doonha, They need more, though. They don't have enough damage with just the two of them, I don't think, but they'll try it anyway.
And they're giving it a go, but here's Benny. I don't know if you want this anymore. You're gonna have to try and back away, but the ward comes down. He didn't get the Carapace off in time, so Hokori, he's just gonna get cleaned up. And Analog, he's here, but I don't think he wants to be. Doesn't have a choice. X dropped onto him. No BKB. Mortimer kisses in.
There
Ice
it is.
Blast in. Ghost Ship in. They just throw everything they've got at him, and that's what it takes to kill Analog, but that's the kill that they needed. Big pickoffs there, and yeah, ET, you said it, right? You weren't sure they had the damage to try for that. They do it anyway, and yeah, maybe they should have known that they weren't going to be able to finish that off.
Yeah, just a little bit too separated from Analog initially, and you saw there he shows up just a half step too late. They don't get the burst damage, they don't kill him in the Impale, and then, well, everything kind of goes poorly for them, which is really unfortunate because that's King of Kings timing. Surem and Hannes, they're doing exactly what they need. They're using their ultimates pretty much off cooldown if they continue to find kills. It's that buffer that you're giving time now, especially time over to Benny, who is gone for the defusal build. He's going to have his recipe pretty soon here, and then the Ursa's going to look for the fight. Momentum is going to shift, though. Blink Dagger is finished up on Yuma, and they are going to look for that Blink RP, and now it's just a matter of whether or not you can hit the spells here. They'd hate to just take Surem, but they might need to settle, but...
Oh, they see
Yuma!
Mini.
It's ugly.
He's going to hold as long as he can. Doesn't want to RP just yet, and although at least get Surem, but Mini's able to pop the BKB and walk away, so...
Huge courier delivery.
Gets it in the middle of the fight, and I mean, he still could have RP'd and they could have forced it, but I think maybe a bit of a hangover effect from that fight down near that bottom river. They decide maybe forcing the issue isn't great for us. Now we can push into Roche. We still have the RP to really deter King of Kings from coming over to contesting.
Hey, we can see you.
Unfortunately,
The
I think they
perfect
say, yeah. Oh no. At the same time as well, they just think that they're too weak. It's taking too much time, and whenever that happens, Dunha pushes in the bottom wave. He sees nobody's reacting. The worst case scenario is if Dunha would just get caught off by the end of that vendetta there, but unfortunately for them, that's your exorcism. I really think that, I don't know, Yuma just need to be a little bit more careful with the spell usage there. They wanted to RP into the Exo. It's why they can't do Roches, because the Exo's fading out so soon. But now, Dunha's set up. He's going to play in this bottom mid side of the map, always being a thorn poking at your mid tower. And, well, now your targets need to shift if you're Hokori. You need to find probably that backline first, because no longer can you survive just Hannes and Surem beating down upon you. You need to find some setup, otherwise I think this match could easily swing. And really, all it takes is one fight, and then suddenly Ursa's got an Aegis in his hands at Benny. I think he's still working on his defusal. He either has it right now or it's coming out on the courier. He's got an extra Blade of Alacrity queued up, so let's see if it just finishes. Okay, Blade of Alacrity maybe. Old Diffu. He's trying to build the older one, you know, get another 10 agi. But at the same time, now he's going to be showing up to these fights.
He's got the strength now to sort of make this happen, and we'll see what he changes the quick buy to. Might have just been old habits there, but now in the jungle, Hokori doing some scouting. Okay, big kill, and they're going to find a second. Hane taken down, Surem dead as well, so just as that defusal gets picked up, ET, now all of a sudden, your lineup's a little bit staggered. You don't have the two supports, those two other sort of team fight aspects that you've been relying on to gang up on some of these opposing heroes. That is going to slow them down for a little bit, and Hokori have the chance to maybe establish a little bit more control.
Yeah, and really smart maneuver from Hokori. It's something you see a lot of really fantastic teams do, where they smoke, they go to the area, they place a deep ward, and then as soon as that ward gets placed, they immediately switch up which side of the map they play on, so that way their opponents, they fill the space. They think they're safe. They're picking out the ward now, but even now, it's a pretty big, dangerous maneuver for King of Kings to venture to that side, even though they have their own obs. But that's where Hokori, what are you actually able to do here? He's kind of overstaying his welcome, but... Oh, with that Carapace, I think he's just dead. Uh-oh, that was really early.
Way too early, as you said, as he gets taken down. I think he was trying to do a little song and dance there so that Analog and Gardet could come in, but once the Carapace is popped, you're not going to be able to buy that much time, and King of Kings get a bit of a freebie as Hokori just say, you know what? We messed up the timing on that one. Let's just, let it go, reset. Nyx is not dead for long. I mean, he's back up in 5 seconds, so He should be just fine in terms of going again. Meanwhile, Analog has got himself the Kaya and Sanj. He's working his way towards a Yule Scepter, so the items are coming in for these cores. Meanwhile, for Yuma, that is an Orchid build. Okay.
Yeah, and it's risky, right? Of course, as we say with unfortunately, a lot of these characters, they can use the attack speed, they can use the damage. The only unfortunate aspect is you can't build into Bloodthorn, but Benny
Hey,
just
Benny.
ran out of the pit. And that's the Orchid, and
Analog's still
well, he's
going.
got to be careful. Oh no.
Actually killed Benny. I don't know if he wins this fight. Oh, wow, never mind. He is just dominating it. Benny gets absolutely annihilated. Hane falling as well. Sarem, good turnaround to try and get the Ice Blast out there, but Vitali had already been hit with the False Promise, so they're really not going to be able to do a whole lot here, and the chase will continue. They've still got the Exo. They've got the Siphoning down now into the Silence onto Dunhao. And this Beastmaster, you can run all you like, but he is not getting away. Yuma picks up the kill, and absolute disaster if you're King of Kings. Benny can't finish Roche, still at half HP, so at this point, yeah, Hokori are going to make their way back over. Half the job's been done for you, and they're going to be able to take that first Aegis away from a lineup that kind of desperately needs it.
Oh, and they, because of the HP, they're baiting their opponents in.
Nice
BKB,
BKB.
but
X coming out. Yuma. Oh, no. He thought he was going to get pulled in earlier, I think. He goes for the RP, whiffs everything, and... well, I said job was half done with Roche being taken down, but all of a sudden, King of Kings, they're the squad in. Benny's back. Minnie's got a DD rune, and Corey don't have the strength to contest unless they want to buy back on people, but it would really only be a Death Prophet buyback, and now they wouldn't even get to the pit in time.
well, hey, we're 19 minutes into the game. Respawn timers are short, and they are still using these very, very long cooldowns, and unfortunately, it's the trap of Death Prophet. You stick around, you don't have Exo, you still try to take the fight, and I think Hokori just needed to give up while they were ahead, because that is a big swap up now, getting the Aegis over to Benny, and at the same time, that's the little bit of a downside for going for this Orchid build on the Magnus. Your BKB is just a little bit more delayed there. That was the other item he surely would have gone for, and I think he really felt the cost there, but you're exactly right, and I think in that timing, he actually missed the boat because of it, but you maybe retroactively baited the RP early because I think he was certain he was going to get pulled back on that timing, and then instead everything whiffs, and then it looks real bad for Hokori really quickly.
Right. But, I mean, in fairness, right, if Yuma has the timing right, gets pulled in, and then gets the RP, that's a straight-up big brain move. Instead, he sort of gets maybe accidentally outplayed. I'm not really sure if it's exactly what Mini meant to do, but as you mentioned, you sacrifice one combo to avoid getting countered yourself, and King of Kings. Well, to turn the tides at this point, they've already sort of burned away that net worth deficit. Haven't really built one up themselves, but they were trailing by a couple thousand net worth in the earlier stages as Yuma tries for it. Can't quite get that blink forward in time, and now you start to worry maybe a little bit for Hokori. If they can't re-establish control relatively soon, Benny is really going forward right now in terms of his item progression. He's still got the Aegis, obviously, but BKB is going to be finished off soon, so you're going to have an Ursa who's even less afraid of committing to these fights, and even without direct itemization towards damage outside of the diffusal, he is going to hit hard.
Yeah, and honestly, yet again, what a clutch courier delivery service they've got over at King of Kings. Just as soon as he needs the blink, gets it on the courier, blinks out, avoids a 5-man death, and really continuing forward. We'll see if Benny actually goes for this BKB. I feel like getting a Basher is the, more aggressive approach. Might actually be able to burst off heroes like Vitali as well, but that's where King of Kings are also preparing themselves for this next fight, this post-Aegis fight, where they'll have double BKB on their cores. Analog still hasn't skipped a beat. He really hasn't been under any threat, aside from that one death bottom. But once you have those BKBs on Hokori, the game plan gets really simple. Just kite out the Ursa Enrage, focus on everyone else. If they create this big hazard, this just huge team fight that Dunhawk can only roar one BKB target, and actually bottom, they got him.
The Aegis.
Oh
I
no.
think they're going to stick around for another attempt. It's just the Aegis snipe and then they go, but the Olakor... oh, they got it. Hane, that is very nice work with the range, making sure that he waited long enough, and the Olakor gets taken down. The problem is, that is a nice kill for Benny. That's not the kill you really wanted to trade Aegis for. And now, well, these might be the kills that they wanted, but Vitaly's too far back underneath the tier 2 already, and Benny wasn't close enough to join.
Yep. And honestly, not going to be too pressed for missing that one out. They would have liked maybe a little bit of a poke onto the tier 2, but again, Hokori, they'll take the Aegis out of their hands, make Benny play maybe a little bit more defensive here, and now he has to go for the BKB. He can't kind of play in between and go for the Basher. His defense is just shattered now, but that buys time for Hokori's. So you give and you take, and I think that's where King of Kings, they still need to play aggressive. They still need to find these kills. That's why they hunt onto Vitaly and they even attempt that. But if they start whiffing, you know, you end up in a farm battle versus a Magnus who is also farming up very quickly, and Yuma just finished his BKB, so they're even going to rush it. They're going to try to catch him off guard right now, and even though Vitaly is not most likely going to get involved, this is still very scary, and whoever's in this bottom lane, right now it's just Surem, needs to be careful, but they're even diving it deeper. They're looking for Benny. This would be your Blink RP.
Let's see if they can get it. They're actually going to start with the silence. There's the RP coming out. Mortimer Kisses flying through, but that's not really going to do a whole lot. The Carapace came through to cancel it immediately, and Benny has been taken down. Now who can get out, really? Hane's looking for the TP. He will make it away. Benny fell back to the tower. Surem's here to back him up, so you only lose the Ursa, I guess, but that's still a huge hero to lose in this instance, as King of Kings now can't really respond. They used the Mortimer Kisses, and primary damage dealer is dead.
Yeah, and it's not an irrelevant kill per se, but unfortunately Hokori can't turn that into any objectives. The mid wave was already pushed in from King of Kings. That's what Mini has been doing pretty much the entire game. He keeps on X-torning himself, and actually built a Sanjin Yasha, which is interesting, just because once Yuma starts to become an actual damage dealer, and more so than just the control he provides, then you're probably going to want that halberd. Magnus does start to hit pretty darn hard, especially if he looks for maybe a Daedalus after, but that's also where I don't know where Yuma actually proceeds from here on out, because this build's a little bit funky, because Oblivion Staff, well, the Echo Saber disassemble has definitely gotten a whole lot weaker in current patch, just with how items have shifted up a bit, but at the same time, looks like he just made it back into an Echo Saber, so he gets the effect, so kind of funny, but that aspect of building a Bloodthorn and having that Crystallis is just that much weaker. But Mini...
Oh no, they got him with the silence first. He has to BKB, but he's taking way too much damage. Even if he tries to TP out now, he wouldn't survive, so you have to hold the charge, and that will cost him his life.
Damn, okay. I really thought he would have been fine there if he just BKB boat TP'd, but I guess maybe assuming that Yuma had the RP, thinking it would have been a waste regardless, but man, that feels like, I don't know, they just weren't aware of the timer perhaps, because I feel like he's fine there, to be honest, because he's a very tanky fella. But instead, I guess, maybe looking for the fight in the next minute, but unfortunately, Roche timer is not cooperating with them, so we'll have to see how they establish control, because King of Kings is definitely getting worked by their opponents a little bit.
Yeah, I mentioned Hokori, that was 5 to 10 minutes ago, we're trying to sort of reestablish control. For the most part, they have swung momentum back their way. Taking a look at the graphs, everything is sort of back in their favor. Obviously not quite up to their previous height, but they are looking pretty good right now, and yeah, that's a problem. Uses all of his abilities to clear out the creep wave. Yuma, with that level 20 talent, has the extended range on the skewer, so he is able to hit from even further than his blink originally sort of gave him the range to do. And well, if you're Hane, I don't think you're going to be too broken up about that. He was at least able to clear that creep wave out first, but it's more maybe symbolic of the way that this has been going in general. Hokori are just able to operate really on their opponent's side of the map with impunity, and now they're going to start looking for far more valuable targets. They got the Snapfire first. Now that's an easy kill onto Dunhow. Mini, this is going to be a rough one for him to get, especially into the RP, but it didn't hit Benny. They don't catch the Ursa, so he's still doing damage. Is that enough, though? Well, maybe enough to get Vitaly, but even that's a little bit iffy. Ulisceptor's going to throw him up in the air, and while he was chasing, his teammate got run down. Mini has fallen. Yuma now blinks in. He does need, yeah, the bailout play from the False Promise, but it's going to be enough to get them onto Benny again. The Ursa's dropping low. The Mortimer Kisses, however, will fly through. They really would love this kill onto the Mag, but they're just not going to get it. They don't have the range on the Kisses. Hokori. The Olakor for 4 is the trade, and well, there we go. They're hunting a courier. They did manage to get it. Had to go quite a ways, but once again, they take the fight, and this time they're in a position to immediately push objectives off the back of it as well.
Really love it, and really love the item buildup from Analog here. It's been such a long time since we've actually seen the Blink Dagger picked up by the Magnus, or rather the Timber Saw, and honestly, it feels really good. It's really nice to just blink in, cause chaos, immediately get on that Kunkka specifically, because as soon as you get hit with that attribute shift, well, suddenly your Kunkka does that much less damage, and with the way that, unfortunately, Mini has been forced to build up here, well, once he gets his AC, that's a little bit of a damage increase, but he's not really providing that much. It really comes down to Benny, and like this smoke up, they're trying to catch their opponents here in between their BKBs, in between some of their cooldowns, but at the end of the day, aside from RP, you still have Exorcism. You could still take a pretty large-scale fight here on Hokori. They just need to not get caught out first here. They would love to find Yuma, but this is really just kind of a smoke trying to get a nice pick-off into the Roche respawn, and they might not even find it, but nice ward placed. They would love to find Yuma, but I don't think there's a Blink Dagger built up on Duna, so they don't really have a great way to initiate right now. Neither do they have one on Snap, but they can't start with an X. Oh no!
Yuma jumped in! Didn't get the BKB off first. Wouldn't have mattered about the roar, but he was still taking a lot of damage, but he's able to get back with the skewer. That extended cast range coming into play as he's able to fall back, but Hokori have already lost both of the supports. One of them, though, will be buying back as the Olakor rejoins, and look at Vitali holding the front line, trying to get forward. Analog's coming in now with the double chakrams. They'll take Dunhat down. Mini dangerously close to dying. He'll fall to the Exo Spirits. And the King of Kings may have missed their chance here, as Hane is going to be picked off as well. Third kill in the fight. 2 supports dead, 1 buyback used. Who cares, right? You win the engagement. You now take control of the pit again. And the King of Kings, it looked like everything was sort of falling into their lap there. I mean, Yuma, the one hero that you wanted to get right at the start of the fight without his BKB and without his ult, did exactly that for you. Blinked directly into the middle, and they still couldn't take advantage.
Oh, they're being so cautious here.
Benny, gotta be a little careful, though. He's taken some damage. There's the Enrage, but the Eul Scepter's gonna eat through the rest of that duration into the RP. Benny needs help, but there's no one there to help him. Hane just jumps in, trying to steal Roshan, and he did snatch it. He got both even. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a good play. I mean, objectively speaking, Hane with a nice maneuver there. It's just, it's not going to help quite as much as they needed it to. Sure, Hokori do not have the Aegis to work with anymore, but they are still so much the team in charge. And ET, if only that play could have come without Benny dying beforehand, it would have been massive.
Yeah, and really, as much as you can praise Hane, the simple matter is that Hokori honestly don't care too much about an Aegis. It's luxury at this point. It doesn't really matter. It's way more important for King of Kings and the Ursa to have that to play around with. Well, oh, dude, no, that's so much damage. Analog is just gonna immediately murk you, and oh boy, he's just doing way too much, I think, on this Timber Saw at this point. Oh my god, look at his hotbar. He just has too many spells. How did we get here in Dota?
He's got 2 chakrams and a flamethrower. It's just, we're a couple steps away from just being WoW at this point with how many buttons there are to press. And now Kunkka, yep, gotta pop the BKB there. No choice really. But Analog is still chasing. Mini's BKB wears off. Yuma now comes in with the skewer, and King of Kings, they just can't stay out of that line of fire. They are getting picked off constantly at this point. 29 kills for Hokori, nearly a kill per minute at this rate, ET, and they are just rolling, firing on all cylinders. Whatever, any other cliche, insert third thing here. But the fact of the matter is they have complete control of this game, and King of Kings are just scratching their head looking for answers.
Yeah, the main problem right now is just damage. How are we actually getting these kills? And unfortunately, it almost came true. Dunha, despite having, I think, a really good early game, having a nice mid game, they weren't able to spin a lot of those kills, and now this Beastmaster is starting to feel really weak. It's starting to feel like the creeps just don't matter. There's something to be farmed, there's something to be killed. You're not really feeling the same dominant effect here. I almost feel like somebody needs to buy a Vlad's and maybe build up towards the Wraith packs because we need either some damage mitigation or some damage buff because right now there's just not a lot looking up for King of Kings. As we get later on, we're getting more of those big items being built up by both Yuma and Analog. Not to mention, Vitaly is no slouch either. He's more farmed than the Ursa. He has a Shiva's guard. No one is really your easy target right now. All of the cores have over 3,000 HP on Hokori's side. King of Kings, they need to take these super long, messy fights. They need Benny to just beat into someone for a good minute before he has enough Furious Wipe stacks to actually feel like he's felt. And in these fights, I feel like their timing, it might just be past at this point. They might need to look much deeper and wait for a mistake from the Hokori side.
Oh no, Benny. Gonna get jumped in on. The RP starts it off, double chakram out, and he's just gone. Benny dead. Everyone else, run. Ane's gonna TP away. They get the Beastmaster out as well. But that's all you can do. In the snap of your fingers, Benny's gone. The rest of the lineup has to run for their lives, and now you're back on the defensive again. And you were talking about the cores on the Hokori side, ET, sort of building themselves up. Even look at the supports. Core's got a Blink Dagger. He could get the Boots of Bearing if he wants. He's actually got a 4-staff queued up instead. And over on the Oracle, he's got a 4-staff. He's got a Ghost Scepter. He's got the Quickening Charm even for some extra HP regen and cooldown reduction. So you're starting to run out of easy targets if you ever really had any on that King of Kings side.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, without any hope of getting that Aegis, as it still is more or less freshly killed, it feels like right now they are going to be stuck waiting at least a little bit here. And of course, Hokori, they can take it low and slow. They're going to fix their waves. They're going to force their opponents into their base. But that's also where the name of the game is going to be high ground. Whether or not King of Kings can wait for a mistake in the push, Hokori are still not the freest tower push. They need to really let Vitaly kind of feel and beat into those towers with the exorcism. But at the same time, if you're just taking 90% of the map away from your opponents, we're not getting that illusion carry. We're not having those flash farmers. It's not like any of the cores on King of Kings side are really getting the space or room to accelerate. They're pretty much stuck with the items they have at this point. Maybe Benny gets time to finish off a Basher, but that's where they need to be so careful here. After they get this D-ward, a smoke from Hokori could come out and just completely blindside them. They have to be really cautious showing where they are.
Yeah, they were grouped up. I don't think they currently have a smoke, unfortunately, but let's see. Courier. Yep, there it is. Okay. Smoke coming out on the Courier, so we will give it a go now. This is a 4-man. Theolacor will lead. They're directly onto Mini. The X marks a spot, can't pull him back, and he's dead.
Still well timed from Theolacor. Oh my goodness. On the Tidebringer, on the creep wave. It's why this Nyx Assassin's a scary hero, man. Like, untouched for 2 weeks, and then one game, you're just like, yeah, this guy's still annoying. Oh, man. This is rough. Because look at Yuma. With an AC, this is just your tier 3 tower just getting beat up, and now here comes the reinforcements, flamethrower, and they're just going to pop everything. They know if he doesn't have buyback on Kunkka, there's no way King of Kings take this fight. They just don't have enough, and Benny bought out for the Basher, so if he dies, that's probably just game right there. So I think we're just going to be stuck watching 1, maybe 2 racks just completely be given away here. We'll have to see how they position, but when they walk over to the mid lane, I think King of Kings are just going to get shut out here.
Look at how sort of defensive or scared, really, they're playing right now. Everyone is so far back. Now we'll see a wrap, but this has to be so perfect. Hane needs the Mortimer Kisses. The problem is you have to account for Theolacor because he did just use the Carapace, but it's a short cooldown. Anytime you try to go in, you can just have that combo canceled out almost immediately. So
oh, it's such a heavy cost. They smoked up on the back. We're trying to look for anything, and well, they've got a ward to play around here, but I think as soon as they say that heroes are in the triangle, well, Benny and Hannes, okay, they're going on Gardic.
okay, able to blow him up. Nice opening. Hokori aren't going to stick around to potentially sort of lead that into a secondary fight. Benny, though, doesn't want to let him go. Got the inhibit to the Nyx Assassin. Has to wait out the Carapace, and that's a lot of damage. Benny needs an escape route. He is going to be able to fall back. Cookie helps him make his escape. But now, well, I said before, Hokori doesn't want the bite, but they go back in. They drop the RP onto the Beastmaster. And Dunhao, I mean, he's got a BKB active. You wouldn't really be able to tell from watching the way that that fight goes. Hokori just really, they don't care. The match community is neat, but they just continue to hammer away at him with their physical damage. And that's your Beastmaster dead, his BKB used, and no buyback available.
Yeah, I mean, yet again, on paper, right? You're chasing him out of the base. They don't have Exorcism. Hokori should be done, but it's just the Rego. They just have enough to still make it happen, and Gardic not playing around either. Of course, we've already talked about how much luxury he has, but no
Oh,
mini!
they got him again.
Well, they try with the Force, but that is just a really rough kill. He got buyback, at least. He will be here for the base defense, but with 20 seconds on Exo, the final fight of the game is coming up in a few seconds here.
You know, I mentioned it all the way back in the first game of the day to Neff. The fact that, Hokori are actually adding Theolacor to the lineup. He's not a stand-in. He is a new member, as you can tell from the tags. Theolacor is just incredible. Talked about him being sort of an experienced player. He has a steady hand in that position 4 role, and he can do things like this. He can play the Nyx Assassin and take over the game. He can play your Mirana and put up snaking level numbers, basically. And right now, King of Kings maybe kind of wishing that Theolacor were literally any other support player in South America right now, because Mini just can't catch a break. That's 3 times now I think he's been caught by that Spike Carapace play.
Yeah, and I mean, a true vet in every sense of the word, and that's also where the lineup is just working so beautifully together. Yuma even gets a Hex just so they have even more follow-up. I feel like, okay, Vitali takes the Ags. I was gonna say probably give it over to Theolacor just because Ags is still crazy. It's still incredibly good. Some Nyx Assassins in the current patch are even just rushing it and even forgoing maxing Impale just because you get mana burn, and then, well, you need mana this patch. You need mana in general, and, well, that's your secondary Hex coming from Analog himself, and, well, another dead hero and another dead hero.
Both of the supports are down. They just can't get out of the way at this point. It's just too much for them to realistically deal with, and Mini, he got an X onto Analog, but you don't really do anything with that. Ane's gonna buy back. Benny's back in. But this is it. This is the last hurrah. They've got to make something happen here. The last stand, and it's not going great so far. Okay, never mind. There's the Torrent. Ghost Ship's going to come in, but the BKB already active by Vitali. They will lock him down with the Roar, but not for very long. Look at Vitali just continue to chase forward. Hana gets taken down again. Benny is isolated from any support whatsoever. And that's going to be the GG. They clean up Mini on the back end as well, just to pad the stats a bit. But Hokori, one last kill? Yep, one last kill. Dunhow gets taken down before the bell. And Hokori may have dropped one game against Wildcard, but they sure as hell came ready to play in their second series.
Yeah, I think they really kind of did whatever they want this game. If anything, Analog really just not only worked the mid lane, but worked pretty much every other lane he got put in. Only it leaves the game with 1 death to his name. And I really think at the end of the day, there was the one, what felt like a mistake from Hokori around that Roche pit that ends up getting saved by Gardic. And I think the name of the game kind of happened where in the draft, hey, they picked this Oracle, you end up being a little bit too single target, even though I like this Beastmaster pickup into it. There just wasn't enough lockdown, I think, for King of Kings to actually hold anyone down long enough to get the kill. And we saw yesterday, funnily enough, in the cut versus the Force Zoomer series, the only option when it comes to playing versus Death Prophet is to kill her. As soon as you see she's committing for an objective, you try to burst her as soon as you possibly can, humanly can. And unfortunately, with the Oracle, well, hey, you're set up a little bit more so than any other Death Prophet has been in this entire tournament, and Gardic just continues to find the ultimates. And I think that's where King of Kings, there are too many people they need to kill at the beginning of the fight. It gets way too messy for them. And unfortunately, yet again, Mini doesn't have the game he needs to kind of prop up the rest of his teammates. He wasn't able to find too many of those early kills. He tried to find some of those picks, but it just wasn't happening. And then you have these super big, super tanky cores. And unfortunately, all of the heroes that are really good versus those super tanky cores, you know, the Timbersaw and the DP, well, they're on the same team. That's why it's their opening. It just felt like there's no option, honestly, for you. And with the way King of Kings drafted, they try to have this answer in the Ursa, but if he doesn't have a good start either, then the fight doesn't drag on long enough, and, well, Hokori just get almost an infinite amount of healing, an infinite amount of resets.
Yeah, and it is a shame for King of Kings here, because Mini, as we so often mention for this team, he is the barometer. If he does well, the odds of success for King of King increase massively. When he plays poorly, Again, it's not impossible for the team to win. They can sort of pull him along with them, but very rarely does that happen. This mid Kunkka didn't get much of a shot, and even in the previous game, we got to see him on an Ember Spirit. That's exactly the kind of dynamic, playmaking, high damage hero that you want, and then they had to put him in the safe lane because of the sort of Huskar situation. So you can't just sort of have your star player, let's say, not to give too much disrespect to Benny, but your star player play kind of with one hand tied behind his back.
Yeah, and at least it wasn't the mini Sand King. I remember way back when they're trying to qualify for TI, rough days, and I think honestly, the most kind of hard pill to swallow for King of Kings is just you got counterpicked so hard in all your lanes, you weren't going to be happy no matter what, and the same thing kind of happened in game one. I think draft wise, they just maybe got a little bit too ahead of themselves, but this is also where I think even though the SA teams are still stuck in the previous patch a little bit more so than some of the NA squads, having this Death Prophet just come and burst through, I think that the more teams adapt and learn to play versus her, the more successful we're going to see. And I think that's where King of Kings really just weren't as adaptable. They weren't moving quick enough as the patch has gone kind of without them. And I think that's where we might need to see a big shift. And they might still make upper bracket, but I think at this point, it's really up to one or two teams having just absolutely horrible games in the next 2 days. But we'll have to see. Meanwhile, Hokori moving to second place. They are very happy with their position.
Absolutely. We said this second series is going to give them a shot to really increase their position. They end the day with 3 out of a possible 4 points that they could have grabbed. So not perfect, but it's going to do the job for sure. Meanwhile, for King of Kings, their sense of agency and control over their own destiny is starting to slip a little bit. They are down to, I think, 1, maybe 2 more series at this point. So not too many opportunities left. We'll see what they can do, though, but not today. We are going to be moving along. We've got a 3rd series here, and we are going to get some of the North American boys back in on the action. It's going to be a matchup between 4 Zoomers and Dogchamp. Dogchamp, kind of the only team right now that knows exactly where they're going to be in that playoff bracket. Their chances of making upper are technically, statistically still there, but realistically, no, not really. But on the other side of things, for Zoomers, very much trying to make a push, much like Hokori did today. So that series is going to be coming up next as we swing over to the North American side, and we should be getting those teams ready to go here momentarily. So we'll be stepping out for about 5 to 10. We'll be back for series number 3 on the day.